Hey guys, how you doing? Hope you're all doing okay. I wanted to have a chat with you today about something that I came across today. I've been in a group with a group of lads. I'm wearing this training course, and quite a lot of them here now know that I've been posting these YouTube videos and the purpose of the book, and why I'm doing it. And one of the things that became apparent during the conversations with many of them is, nearly all of them have got their own, their own struggles, and they're doing their own thing, and they've got their own coping mechanisms. And one of the biggest things that I touched on in a different vlog was about how mental health affects you in a way that you tend to kind of resist coming out and openly talking about it for fear of how it's going to affect your children. And I totally understand that. That was one of the things that made me or delayed me with being able to openly reach out and get the help I needed. I think what I want to talk to you about is how that worked for me. And yes, I most definitely did have that reluctance to openly discuss and accept and acknowledge that I had issues, because I was worried about how it was going to affect my children. Now, what I can say to you is that it's not as bad as you think it's going to be. I had a chat with my little Pippa tonight, and I think it's fair to say that I think they're actually quite proud of me. I think we've got a duty as parents to make sure that we set them up properly, and I think this world that we live in is a cruel world. I've said it before. I think the world will put its foot on our head for as long as we allow it to, and will hold us down for as long as we allow that to happen. I think we've got to fight, and we've got to come back from it. And I think one of the things we've got to do as parents is teach our children that not everything in life is roses. We've got to teach them that there's going to be hardships, and they're going to fall. There's going to be times when life's going to get them down. And I think being able to openly discuss real life matters with them is important. I think what's more important is how we come back from it. So for me, I've always been very open and honest with my children about more or less everything. Obviously, I've been gentle about how I approach it. I certainly tried not to make them worry about things that they don't need to. I've not been very successful at that, if I'm honest. I think I do have a very honest take on things, and I share everything with them, and I think I'm perhaps a little bit too honest. Yeah, my little Pippa, she gives me these little signs of recognition of well done, Daddy, and she's starting to understand. She's not going to, if she's 8 years old, she's not going to fully understand. Or she's 9 years old, I should say. She just had her birthday, but she's not going to fully understand mental health, and she's not supposed to. She isn't, and I'm not going to dare try and complicate her little head with that. Children should be allowed to be children for as long as we can keep them children. I think they grow up too quick these days, but I think what is important as parents is that we're honest with them about important things, and when it comes to life struggles, I think we've got a duty to address those properly. And I think we've got lots of young children who are growing up in hostile environments and in families where parents are struggling with mental health. And yeah, I think it's important that we gently make them aware of what this is, and let them understand that it's a real thing, not to try and complicate their minds with trying to understand it or trying to do anything about it or give them any responsibility. We mustn't do that. I don't think we should in any way lean on them at all with our problems. I think that's definitely a no-no. We mustn't do that. I think what we must do is just make them aware that it's a temporary thing. Let them know that it's a real thing. It's something that's in society. It's something that is perhaps the reason for many negative things that are going on in the house and in our lives. But I think we've got a duty. So for those of us that are, that we go through times where we think we've given up and we can't cope anymore, if we've got children, I think we've got to keep that in mind. We've got to fight for them. We've got to get through it for them. My little Pippa, my Lola, my son Cole were the very things that kept me alive. When I was having those dark moments and I was thinking, can I carry on? You know, there's nothing really for me anymore. It was the thought of how that would affect them that kept me going. And I'm glad I did. So again, you know, I've had lots of messages come back over the last couple of days from people. You know, I'm very much in touch with the Facebook and mental health groups as well now, and I'm on those quite a bit just to see what's going on. I've had some great feedback from individuals, but there's a lot of sadness out there. And I think for those of you who've got children, I urge you to just make it your mission to kick through this, make it your mission to find that coping, find whatever it is that helps you to cope. One of the guys here that I'm working with has been through his own ordeal, and we were all working on an assignment earlier on as a group, and this is a guy that puts 1,000% into work, and you know, to a point where it's you know, it's kind of boffin, you know, but what I realised today was that's his coping mechanism, and that's why he puts so much heart, soul and passion into the study, the work. It's because that's his coping mechanism, that's what helps him through, and that is absolutely fine. And I credit him for that. But yeah, I think the purpose of this vlog is to talk about how it can affect our children and the consequences of a consequence of us doing nothing at all. And I think we do have a duty to get this right. We've got a duty to try and find a way of managing. I think we've got a duty to try as gently as possible to give them some degree of understanding. I think if they're too young, I don't think, you know, we're going to have to find another way around it. But I think when I was a child growing up, I think part of my traumas and my experiences, and I locked away many experiences from an early age that I couldn't really understand, because I would have been in an environment of hostile environment, you know, mainly where my father was concerned, and they would have concerned me at the time, but I wouldn't have been in a position to have been able to discuss that. I wouldn't have been able to ever dare approach my father and ask him questions about what I was witness to, what I saw. So I think what we do as children is we file them away, we file those experiences away, and we hope that they go away, but actually we file them away unanswered and with no conclusion and with no closure, I think is the word that people use. And then it meant that I think as time goes on, it manifests itself. Or, you know, I think what I used to do is I used to draw my own conclusion on that thing and put that away. And when I say put it away, I think I consider those traumas and those experiences as kind of a filing cabinet with files in there. And I think, you know, let's just assume that this was a violent act. My father said that was a violent act, father, you know, 1983, and it was filed away with a question mark around it. And it was unresolved for me. It wasn't properly answered. And I think when you're young, you'll draw this conclusion, or you'll get a picture idea of what you think that was, and you move on. And I think the danger with that is by not being able to conclude and properly understand that situation then, or at least have an explanation which helps you to put it away. I think it stays there, and I think it manifests itself all the way through your life. And I was able to answer many of those questions when I started doing the writing of the book. I went right back to the beginning and started to talk about things that affected me. And I realised as I was writing it that I was actually answering those unanswered questions. And actually what had happened is my conclusion, or my thinking of an understanding that I did back then, I'd got it completely wrong. And so on many occasions I'd been worrying about, or I had a vision of what this thing should be, or what it looked like, when actually I was totally wrong, and I didn't need to worry about it. So I think the purpose of the vlog is just to say that I think for those of you that have got children, we've got to cope, we've got to get through it, and we've got to gently just let them understand to some degree what's going on. And I think we've got a job to do, and that's to get fix isn't the right word, but to find a way of coping, and we mustn't give up. Our children need us. They didn't ask to be brought into the world, and you know, and have to face the problems that we face. I think we've got a duty to get it right, find whatever it is that helps us cope, and we need to talk about it more. 100%. That's one of the biggest things, talking about it. We need to somehow talk about it, and I think every time we share a problem, I think to some degree we halve it. It's, it's an old cliche, but I think it's true. But I think when our children are concerned, I think we've got a duty to get it right, teach them that we're going to fall, and in life they're going to fall, and teach them that we've got to get back up again. And they're not mistakes or experiences. So whatever we've done, like me in the past, that I'm ashamed of, and we've got to be able to draw a line under that somewhere and give ourselves a break and push on. So I hope that helps. But yeah, keep going, keep pushing, stay positive. Take care.